Hi there. It's
Hello.
Katie.
It's Rachel.
Hello, wonderful nurses. It's your clinical managers here to give you some more feedback. So we're going to jump right into it, and we're hoping to keep it nice and short for you guys. Let me just share my screen. Okay, hopefully you can see this.
So here's an example of a nurse's note that I pretty much liked. You can breeze through it or skim through it for a little bit. But we'll just start at the top. Let's see here.
Keeping in mind, I took out any names or like
Right.
identifying factors. So
I like that this note has specific times, and I'm not seeing a lot of abbreviations, which is good because we don't have that many we can use. Night meds provided per primary caregiver. That's good. You don't need to be specific about which ones necessarily,
if they're the
just
routine.
who gave them.
Right.
Let's see, something. And then you included something subjective, which was, well, yeah, subjective, that the client, that you had a little interaction with the client about changing the equipment. And you kind of explained yourself, so that's good. But she was safe. Let's see, and then let me say, again, I like that you explained that she had just gone to the bathroom before the blood sugar check, and so you weren't able to get the ketone check right away. That's good. I like details like that.
Right.
I like that you're putting intake and output, that her tolerance of it. And I love that you put that she doesn't have these other symptoms of high blood sugar or acidosis, because you're kind of covering yourself there, that you're assessing this client. It's good. This note is good because it gives a nice picture of what went on. Like I can see it in my head.
Right.
It's not too generic.
Right.
There's a lot of personal stuff in here, like, specific stuff in here.
Yeah.
Um,
Rachel and I were
Yeah.
kind of brainstorming some like general rules of thumb when doing your narrative notes, and we wanted to provide you with some good examples for you to look at, in addition to ones that might need some improvement on them. So this is an example of a really good note. I like to say that when you read your note, you should be able to tell what day it came from. If you're writing the same note for every single shift, then people who read it can tell when they're reading through it. And if you are ever recalled to like answer a question about a shift that you had a few months back, it's nice that you'll be able to read through your note and kind of remember the day.
Mm-hmm.
Other little things to definitely include in your note would be like if Rachel and I do a visit in the home, there's nothing wrong with having more than one nurse in the home. And when Rachel and I do our visits, it does not count as like part of your nursing that you're doing in the home. What we're doing is different, and it's reimbursed differently through the insurance as well. So don't ever be afraid to put that me and Rachel are there doing like our supervisory visit or what have you. Because we always, notice that when we're like, hey, we were there this day and they completely omitted us from their note. So always include things like visitors. Essentially.
Let's see the goals.
Yeah, exactly. Okay.
Pretty good job at addressing the goals. Maybe add a little bit more detail about her respiratory status. So it's a little less, generic. I hate that word, but second one is good. Yeah, this is fine as long as you're not literally just restating the goals.
Yeah,
that's what we don't like. It's a reasonable length of note too for the shift and for the acuity of the client. So I think it's good.
Okay, cool. All right, let's go on to example number 2. Unless you got anything else to add. Okay. So again, this is just a good example of a pretty solid note with a lot of detail in it. Things like when you do your initial assessment, so like on your Care Connect tablet, there's, a good portion where you're putting in your assessment, your vital signs, all of that. You can save yourself the trouble of having like double entry and putting it in your narrative as well. The only exception to that would be to put your initial assessment up at the top in your Care Connect. And then if you are continually taking vital signs, which you'll see in this note, they do repeat vital signs later on, then you can put it in your nurse's narrative note. But just to save you a little bit of double documentation. But if you're doing it also just for consistency and being able to sort of compare and contrast too, then that's fine.
What does ORA stand for? On Rumere.
Oh, on Rumere. So there's another good abbreviation that is not necessarily one of the Beata approved abbreviations. We can probably figure out what you're meaning by ORA, and I use RA quite a bit for room air, but I don't typically put the O there as well. Good catch there. CDI is a very acceptable abbreviation, so that's fine. As is PRN. I'm just kidding. Yeah, I was noticing feeding and nursing care tolerated well. They had given us feedback at one point that tolerated well is a little bit subjective, and you might want to put, tolerated without any discomfort, tolerated without complication, without nausea, vomiting, that sort of thing. Lots of vitals being taken on this shift, huh? Thank you. Anything else? It's very thorough. I really don't have a lot to add.
Not really, only maybe it looks like sometimes the feeds are by gravity and then sometimes they're on a pump. So maybe just say what kind of pump it is. And say that it's on a pump.
And that might be
But
higher
yeah.
up in the note too.
Exactly.
I could see them putting it under like nutrition, and then
Right.
you don't need to, if it's somewhere else, you don't need to put it
True.
in here too.
True. No, it's good.
Take a look at the goals. Would you change anything?
Just the ORA.
Just the ORA. Okay.
And maybe a little bit more detail on respiratory status.
Okay.
But I like I like the last goal looks good.
Incontinent bladder.
The
Oh yeah.
Tolerated enteral.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Cool. So that's a good one too. I always say one of the things that I noticed is make sure you're signing your nurse's note with your credentials as well. So in the box where you're signing on the tablet, make sure you actually add in your credentials. Anywhere you sign your name, you got to put that RN or LPN at the end of it. And for examples, I see this more like on night shift nurse notes, but it could be day shift too. But for people who are total care and are like a Q2 turn, you can always document that as well. That's something that I don't see a whole lot, but I like to see when people are actually repositioning and stating which way they're repositioned. Or
yeah, our nurses are obviously doing a great job at taking care of our clients because they don't have wounds.
Right.
But if they ever were to have a wound, we would want to be able to trace back the documentation that showed that we did everything we could. So even if you're offering a position change and they're declining it, put that in your note, or they're sleeping and you didn't want to disturb them. As soon as they wake up, you could offer them to turn, but I would say which side, just like Katie said.
All right, we got one more example.
Okay.
And I'm gonna have Rachel go through this one.
Yeah, we're both going to.
Rachel's good. Good feedback. First thing that pops out at me is he requested I check And so I don't know who that is, like who requested you check the residual.
I mean, it could be husband, it could be caregiver.
Exactly. And then the other addition to that is, do we have an order to check residual? Right? So even if something is family or patient initiated, if they start asking you to do something for them, we still want to follow that up by making sure we've got our order covering us.
And to be honest, there may be an order for that. I can't recall because we have a few clients.
Right,
So,
right.
I can't recall
Yeah,
specifically, but that's what the auditor would look at it is anything that you're doing, is it included in the care plan?
yeah.
Yeah.
This one again states the vitals on the note, which is not necessary.
I'm okay with though, including the 86% SpO2 though, because that's abnormal
Mm,
in the note.
to draw more attention to
Yeah.
it and say what's
Just
going
show that you're
on.
reassessing.
Oh, yeah. What is this? Left side PI?
I'm not sure.
Left side, maybe that's position?
1.5. No, she's talking about the capillary refill
Left side,
within 3 seconds.
why? What does that stand for? Peripheral?
Maybe just spell out the words since I don't know what that necessarily stands for.
Hell.
Client tolerated well. So again, I would put client had relief of dyspnea or pain or whatever, or, stable vital signs or something like that. So like other than tolerated well.
Yeah, I also think this one is another repetition of the order itself. You just don't need to have it in there unless family is requesting you to give it when it's due. Which in this case is fine if it's somebody who is like hospice bound.
Yeah. I mean, you could also include how much volume was in the stomach. Because it says it's full, but I don't know how much that means. Does she have?
Oh,
Her
right
stomach
here.
can hold a lot. It can hold a liter.
Abdomen
It can
full.
hold, less than that, more than that. It
Sure.
stretches.
It also doesn't say if it was returned or not, which we know
Correct.
is
Best
significant.
practice.
Right.
Yeah. Again, when you reposition to the client, how did you position her? On her side? There's nothing really wrong with this note. It just
No.
could be slightly different.
Yeah.
Slightly,
Yeah,
different.
it could just,
slightly
know,
more
we
detailed.
just offer suggestions. Yeah. And this one too is just a subjective comment. So, and maybe instead just say per FLAC scale, pain
Mhm.
rated 0 out of 10
Yeah,
or
or no
no
nonverbal,
distress.
no nonverbal pain indicators present if they're nonverbal, which at this point, it sounds like this client was
Right.
not talking. So
Right.
she was in hospice.
All right, let's look at goals.
I actually like the second goal. 'Cause
Yeah.
It's talking about
The
interventions.
meditation and music. Yep.
Yeah, but those, I don't know if those are in the correct order. They should be addressed in the order that they are in the care plan, and I think they're flipped
Yeah.
on the care plan. So like her unpleasant physical and emotional symptoms, I think is the first goal.
I always, I know that ADLs is sort of self-explanatory, but I do like to break them up a little bit and say, with their GIGU, are they incontinent? Are they voiding? Are they toileting? With their feedings, are they getting enteral feedings? Or they eat orally or whatever with their skin, and then with falls.
So it should actually say under the ADLs, it should talk about the fact that she's not tolerating the tube feed. And
Yeah,
that you turned it off or you did something.
right.
about
That
instead
one of
that
the
it was
feedings
met.
was held, right? Which also just keep in mind whenever you are holding something, whether it be a medication, a feeding, a treatment of any sort, technically under nursing law, we're supposed to contact a doctor for
Right.
that order to notify them that it's being held.
Right.
Since we're saying that we're not doing what the physician ordered. This is a little bit different. This is somebody who is on hospice, who is going to have a lot of changes, and those are to be
Correct.
expected. So I wouldn't expect you to notify the doctor, but just so you know, I'm like a stable client. ask yourself that question, does somebody need to be notified that this is not being given?
And she probably, the client, it sounded like it was going on for a while, and then the hospice nurse came by. So there was their chance to update the hospice,
Right.
company. So that's totally adequate, but maybe include that you told the hospice nurse that you had held the tube feed.
Oh, yeah.
And that
you
they were
gave-
okay with it, which
Maybe
they
that
would
you
be.
gave report to the hospice
Yes.
nurse and that they, approved of your actions or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay,
It's not bad, though. It's got good bones. Just needs
Yeah.
a little fleshing out.
yeah,
Yeah.
alrighty. That's all we got for you today. Thank you.
Let us know what you might want us to look at, next time. We'll still look at nurses' notes, but if you want us to focus on anything in particular or your note, let us know.
Yeah, certain section of the note, if you struggle with any particular section more than another, we can take a look at that. Alrighty, thanks. Have a
Thank
great day. Bye.